Oh, I've already hit record anyways.
Wait, was that the cough?
No. Say, ignore me. I'm just coughing. take it away, boy.
Right. Okay, and welcome back to another episode of the Bandit Football Fans Podcast. My name is Ben, and I'm a Liverpool fan. And today I've got together with two of the guys because we want to talk through the Project Big Picture proposal that came through this week. So we have Deji on the line, a Man United fan. Deji, what's up?
Yeah, I'm all good, man.
Cool. I wasn't sure if you're going to stay there silent or not, so I
Oh
thought
no, I
I
just
was like,
freeze
man,
like
might
this.
just do gun fingers for no reason. And we also have clearly a Chelsea fan, Callum. Callum, how you doing, mate?
All good, guys. All good. You all good?
We're all great,
Yep.
I think. I'm speaking on behalf of everybody.
Oh, actually, you know what I was gonna say as well. Like, guys, the guys who are watching, there's some people in this chat who are recovering from a spanking before the international, for the international break in it.
Are we talking about this? We can talk
Oh
about it.
no, we don't need to talk
No,
about
no,
it.
no, no.
Oh,
Because like, this is the thing. 100%. It happened, and I was working, so I didn't watch it. So that might have, but I didn't really feel anything. Like I don't know if you guys remember, but like after the Man City game last season when we got done 5-0, I was quite angry, and I was like, we can get beaten. Like we don't lose 1-0. Like when we get beaten, we get torn apart, and then we got torn apart by Aston Villa. So I don't know. Is what it is.
Yeah, we just got and that was the end of that. So
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so moving on. So in the last week or so, some information has been leaked, and it's basically a project, and the project is called Project Big Picture. It is put together by the unlikely pairing of the Liverpool board and the Man United board, and the information was leaked. But basically, it's their proposals for how football, particularly from a Premier League, rejoining more the Football League perspective, can kind of be balanced out and be made a little bit more comfortable. Now, as we talk today, it has been rejected by the Premier League or the clubs involved in the Premier League. But moving forward, they're going to be looking at the proposal and see if there's anything that they can kind of rework into a new kind of like proposal that is actually comfortable for all of the teams to accept. So what we thought we would do is we thought we would go one by one through the major points of the proposal and just have a little bit of a talk about whether or not we think they would be good for football, or whether there is another way of us kind of working them as a football community to make it more of a better proposal for everybody involved. First of all, I don't know about you, Dej, but my first thoughts when I heard about it and it was Liverpool board's plan has been leaked, I was quite happy it wasn't that dumb. I was worried when it was released. I was like, what the fuck have our board done now? Because they've done some stupid stuff. They've had to be talked down from the edge. I don't know what your thoughts were when Man United got linked to it, but it wasn't that bad.
All I heard was Joe. All I saw was Joe Glazer, and I was like, "Yeah, it's over."
Whatever it
No,
is,
but
it's
yeah, Joe. As soon as I saw Joe Glazer, I was like, "Yeah, these men, it's a wrap, man. These men have got some plan." The funny thing is, though, from when I saw it, I was like, "This is not a thing they've been thinking about in the last, let's say, 6 months or something like that. This has been a long thing. This has been coming for a long time, innit?" And again, when I saw Joe Glazer, I'll be like, "Yeah, is this what you've been doing in the background when you're supposed to be sorting out this Ed guy? Instead, you're doing project. This is not your project. Don't get involved in projects that's not any of your business." But it's what it is, isn't it, man? You know what
To
I
be
mean?
fair, thinking about it, a project to rebrand the whole of English football might be easier than a project to rebrand Ed Woodward.
it's, it's
I
you
can
just
see
need
more room for manoeuvre in that.
you need 2 words. You're fired, and that's it. That's what you need. You don't need any more than that.
So just a quick word before we jump into it. Callum, as a fan of a team that wasn't directly implicated in this leak, what was your initial reaction to it?
surprised. Definitely surprised. Number of different factors, to be honest. One, as you already mentioned, United and Liverpool boards working together must be a first in history. I was surprised, and from that aspect, not surprised when I did hear that it was after I heard that it was Man United and it was Liverpool, and I broke down the facts. Actually, who was it behind those names that is doing it? It's two of the biggest American names. And as soon as you hear American, you often think money, and as soon as you hear money, yeah, then that kind of sign the end of things as we know it in England, because when American money comes to UK, the game completely changes, whichever game it is, whether that's football in this case, or retail, or whatever it might be. So yeah, man, that was kind of my initial thoughts. I just hope it doesn't completely screw everyone.
I think anyone that's surprised that Man United and Liverpool are working together, and stuff like that, I think is a bit silly. They're both American. They're owned by both American companies. Do you know what I mean? That's their motive, man.
That was my point, Dave. When you hear Man United and Liverpool together, most English people would be like, "Oh, they'll never go together," because that's what we're used to. United, Liverpool. But then when you actually think, who is that? Then it starts to make more sense.
I think it does show how football perhaps has changed from a sport with strict tribal lines into more of a collection of businesses working together to produce a product to sell.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, like my first thought was like, oh my God, Liverpool and Man United. And then you read that first line, Henry and Glazer, and you're like, oh yeah, they're buddies from back in the, so anyway,
friend.
America friend. So let's jump right in, and I think we should go straight for the one that perhaps caused the most controversy to get that one out of the way. And I think that was that 9 clubs were supposed to be given special voting rights, based on how long they'd been in the Premier League, which would basically give them more of a voice. Now, when the Premier League was started in 1992. The proviso within the league was that for every club you have a vote on all of the topics, and this big change, which I think caused a lot of issue within the Premier League between clubs, was saying that certain clubs, Liverpool, Man United and Chelsea being 3 of them, would be able to have more in a say of how the Premier League is run. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, but is that the board? The board have more of voting rights. So, for example, what I'm trying to get at is that if they're saying, i.e., Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea have a say, which is a bit scary, but after I get this after this question, or what I'm trying to ask, is that essentially if let's say the Glazers left and a new board came in, essentially they get voting rights straight away. Is that what they're essentially trying to say? So it's the club, or is it the board that has?
It's a club. So currently, they get together and they have a meeting. For example, they had a meeting today to discuss this proposal, and each club has 1 vote per club at the moment.
See, this is my thing. Yeah, it's scary because then that's just making me think Glazers aren't going anywhere. They're here for the long run. You know what I mean? If they're trying to they're trying to get that in there. I think it's not fair, but I get their point. You can't have a team from EFL come along and now all of a sudden start having voting rights in terms of how the Prem is going to be run. Yeah, it makes sense that people that are there longer. The only thing that I don't really like is the whole fact of like what I said in it. If it's going to be board, i.e. the club or associated with the club making those decisions, if you get a new board come along, if you get a new board members come along and they start making decisions and that, it's not necessarily fair, in it, in that sense. If you understand what I'm trying to say. But it's interesting. I don't really agree with it. I think the voting thing is a bit stupid, but they got money in it, so it's what it is.
I mean, I think from my point of view, I think the issue is, so I agree exactly with what you say. There are certain things that I don't think a team fresh up from the Championship should be able to vote on. And I think, like a lot of things, it's more nuanced than people are saying. And I think we need to maybe split the voting and look at structural voting and look at season voting. So, like, if you've had who's come up this year, West Brom. We'll talk about West Brom because everybody loves them. So, if West Brom have come up and potentially they're only going to be here for 1 season. So, if there's a voting on whether or not something for this season goes ahead, I think West Brom should have an equal vote because they're here for the year, for this next season. They've come up. Yes, they should get to vote. If you're looking at something that will affect the league for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I think that the teams that have been in there for longer should have more of a vote. What I think needs to be very careful is there needs to be a constant change in earning that. So what I didn't like is the fact that they've listed 9 clubs. So they have written a list of Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, I think Southampton are in there. These are the 9 clubs that should have it. And I'm like, but wait a second, like we've seen Leeds vanish from the Premier League within like 2 years. They went from like 4th place to gone. So why are we listing, like there's nothing that's saying that Liverpool couldn't fall apart. We've just got battered 7-2 by Aston Villa. It could be in the Championship in 2 years. And I think
wasn't West Ham not in it? West Ham weren't in it in them 9 clubs, no?
Yeah, no, because they've been relegated recently. What was
That's not fair.
5, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah, so when I saw West
think,
Ham went in it, I thought that was a bit mad.
From my point of view, I think it should be a rolling thing. So, like, if you had, like, you get on structural issues, like I say, for the season, if you're here for 1 year, all 20 clubs should get voting on if they're deciding, I don't know what it is, you know, whether they have VAR or whatever for that 1 year. If it's about the league, I think if you've been there for 1-2 years, maybe you get a vote. If you've been there 3-4, maybe you get 2 votes, and if you've been there 5 or more, then you get 3 votes. Because it is one of those things.
But that's tricky, man. Do you know what I mean? Because as we all know, anything can happen. Or the motto that we like to use is anyone can get it. Do you get what I'm saying? So, you know, if you're gonna base it on that, now you're adding even more pressure on club. It's like essentially they might start looking at it like, you know what, we're not interested in the trophies, we're more interested in voting rights. So, you know, that's your that's your motivation. You get what I'm saying? As a club, I know it sounds a bit stupid, a bit far-fetched maybe, but that's what ends up happening, isn't it? I think.
I just think the thing from my point of view, and we'll jump on to Callum because I realise you haven't said a lot on this type of thing, is just and we will move on to it, but one of the things that has come up in this proposal is about scrapping parachute payments for teams that go down. Now, if you're West Brom, who have just come up, and the big boys have turned around and said, I think parachute payments are going to be unfair to the Championship. If you're the team that goes down, you've got a big wedge of money for, I think, 3 years, is it? Yeah, you get parachute payments. West Brom, do you think we should scrap it? And you're there like, I don't know if we're going to stay up. You're going to be there like, no, keep those. Like, so I just think there's like an issue. There can be an issue there where clubs will be not thinking necessarily about the league, but be thinking about themselves. And I would never, ever blame a club for not wanting to vote for something that hurts them. Because why would you? You're a business. You want that money. Like,
exactly. I agree with what you said, Ben. I think it's kind of what we need to, what was done with the European coefficient almost. I don't mean in the sense that you know 4 teams go to a specific thing or whatever it might be, but from the sense of a cumulative history affecting a future outcome. And I think that that could work, but on Deji's point, then you start bringing in alternative motivations, exactly like you said. But then on that point, you could come back and say, well, whatever you start to introduce to football, that will become a potential motivation for someone. So, for example, you could take a VAR, and some people are just caning the handball penalties, and that become like they go into games being like, okay, let's just get as many penalties as we can from handball. So my general point being, whichever way the game goes, whichever way you change it, there will always be someone who will try and like take an angle on it and gain from it. So I think it is always going to be tough. I definitely agree with what you're saying about there should be different aspects of it. So things that coming in from this season, that's only fair that all 20.
Yeah, but then how do you determine stuff? So let's say, for example, let's use VAR as an example. Is VAR a seasonal thing, or is it is it an ongoing thing from now on? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because how do you differentiate that?
No, I definitely, and that's like the next level of complexity to it. That's kind of what I was about to get to was then that discussion. Do you then need to vote on what things take 1 year and what things get?
You know what?
No, please. I've done this. I've done the in-work meeting about a meeting about a meeting. What we're going to talk like. Let's cut that out right now. We don't need that life in the Premier League. I think for me, Yeah.
Just quick then, one of the things that I think we talked about it before on an episode of the podcast is that makes the Premier League different is the fact that it's a product, it's a group product. And I'm like, when I think of Premier League, I'm quite proud of, in a way, what it stands for. I know there's a lot of corruption and whatever, I know that. But in the way of what it stands for, from the sense that all 20 clubs are equal, like equal TV rights, do you know what I mean? Like the whole thing is very balanced compared to what other leagues offer. And I've always been quite proud of that as a supporter of an English club. So I don't know, that's something that I wouldn't want to lose. And I feel like we're definitely in danger of doing that, obviously.
That's a difficult point to end on.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's things like this, yeah, that make me just sit there and think, you know what, football is getting a bit too much for me, man.
You
You know
know,
what I mean? Like I said it at the beginning of the season, yeah. I know this is a little bit off topic, but I said it at the beginning of the when this handball thing was introduced, yeah, I was like, this is what I mean. I'm not here for that, man. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I get it, you're trying to make the game a little bit cleaner and all this stuff and whatnot. But when you start putting in too many rules, it starts getting ridiculous. Do you get what I'm saying? Like as I said, I saw it. The funny thing is, I saw it when before they. I know they've changed it now, but before they changed it, I'm seeing man chipping the ball into people's hands and going handball, and I'm like, bro, are you taking the piss? Do you know what I mean?
I
But
am still 100% certain that's exactly what Sadio Mane did in the Champions League final against Spurs. And I'm all for that.
bruv,
Because it won us
see
the
what I'm
Champions
saying?
League.
You see what I'm saying? But I think like bringing this angle of this whole project and whatnot, it's doing the same thing. I think it's just gonna end up ruining football, man. I think.
like what happened to all of the clubs? Like so many people say from who are from an older generation than us, Premier League began in the English Football League began in 1992 as a joke, right? It's obviously existed before then. Where most of our generation only really know about from 1992 onwards. What about all the old clubs like Everton, Aston Villa? All those clubs with heritage, like clubs, Nottingham Forest. Do we suddenly take into account how many European trophies people have won? Because if so, Forest are
that's
above
true.
a lot of the current Premier League.
Mm.
So this, do you know what I mean? There's lots of different aspects to it.
I mean, I think the thing for me is a lot about. So if you want to like move forward, I think you need to unlearn stuff before you learn it. And I think one thing that we have an issue with as a society, God, that's got deep, as a whole of society, but it's reflected in football, is something comes along and then we just add stuff. So like the handball rule got complicated because it was like, right, rather than just change the handball rule now that we know VAR is in and we can just go back to the drawing board, they've added, and nobody knew what the fuck was going on. Like even referees were seeming confused. And I think that's the issue. I think we need to go back and have a look from the beginning and not think about it necessarily as being taking today and changing into tomorrow, but just being like, if we could go back right to the beginning and we could rewrite the Premier League from 1992 to make it fairer, what could we do? And I know that it would have been more difficult in 1992 to do that because you have all of the teams who did it, who were in there were the teams deciding how it was done. But like you said, with the European coefficients, I think you need to respect the fact that you don't always deserve stuff based on your heritage. And like Nottingham Forest are a fantastic team. And a fantastic club. I won't take it away from them. Back-to-back European Cups as an amazing achievement. Does that give them the right to turn around and say, "Oh yeah, I think the Champions League should be done ABC"?
Yeah.
And then a team like Man United not Man United, Chelsea might go, "Oh well, we're in it. We want this to happen." And Nottingham Forest can go, "Oh, we got two, you got one. Shut up." Fuck off, do you know what? Despite the fact that Nottingham Forest haven't been in the Champions League so I think it's a difficult one. I think that line would be very hard to draw. What would be suitable for one season voting and what would be suitable for structural voting? But I think, to be honest, I think it's good the conversation's being had on that, and I think it's good that it's coming from the clubs because a lot of them have been kind of like lean back, see what happens, and the Premier League has not done a lot. Which might be a good segue then to cut across to one of the other proposals. So obviously we know at the moment coronavirus is big and there's no football with fans in the stadium, which is causing an impact on every club's finances. But obviously bigger clubs have more commercial revenue. They have more money coming in for TV deals and from sponsorship and from clothing and that kind of a thing. So obviously the lower leagues are being affected to a larger extent by the lack of fans into ground. Now, what the proposal said was that straight away they would send the £250 million rescue fund to the EFL, which is what the EFL has predicted that there's being needed, and that moving forward, 25% of all future TV deals from the Premier League, that money would go down to the Football League to help support football at a lower level and kind of keep the football pyramid going. Now, one thing I didn't know is that when the Premier League started, they actually offered 20% of all future TV rights to the English Football League.
All right.
And the English Football League told them to fuck off.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but isn't that just because that's just because of thing though, isn't it? That's pride.
Because they weren't because of pride. So I just want to, when you read it and you're like, you motherfuckers, I felt bad for you for all these years, and it was you. Like, do you know, like at the end of the movie,
yeah,
I'm saying it's like you were the villain all along.
Pride. Yeah, you have to take that L on your chest with your chest, bro. Bro, that's your fault. I get it. You said no.
Everyone around the table is staring at that guy like you.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, from my point of view, I just think that is actually going on to talk about how they're planning on funding that. But from the point of view of two of the biggest clubs turning around and going, yeah, we probably should give more money out to the lower leagues.
Listen,
positive.
Again, when I see Joe Glazer's name, I was surprised. I was like, "What? You want to give money away? Oh shit!" But you don't want to buy players. I don't know what you're on, bro.
To be fair, you've been giving money away for about the last decade.
Well, this is it.
Yeah, Falcao has some money. Yeah, Juventus. Yeah, we'll take Pogba. He doesn't get to play, bro. What are you talking about?
That's true. No, that's true. That's true. I think it's a good idea, man. I said this in the beginning when this whole thing was happening. I think it's out of order on smaller clubs. You do need smaller clubs as well, especially for clubs like Chelsea who decide they want to loan out their whole youth system. You get what I'm saying?
Clubs like United that need to buy shit Welsh wingers and you know.
Well, it's true. That's true. But yeah, no, you do need. I think you do need the lower clubs, and I think Wenger came out with an article as well or something about him. He said that the smaller clubs are gonna die, if they don't kind of accept this, and it's true, man. I think it's a good idea. I called it from a long time ago. They do need to give it, but then how far does that extend to? Do you know what I mean? Does that go to League Two? Does that go to
so it would go to the organisation, the EFL, which would be Championship, League One, League Two. So I think there's 72 teams involved. Right. Clubs, I should say, 72 clubs.
Did you see the latest news that broke like half an hour ago about League One and League Two? They're saying that they're going to receive grants and interest-free loans totaling a further.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. So total another 50 million on top of the 27 million that have already been advanced. So that's fine.
Yeah, they need it. I think it's a good thing, anyways. I think that's good.
But then this situation very much looks like short-term loss for long-term gain from a sense of the big guys losing quote unquote 250 mil, but gaining very much gaining long-term, almost in a kind of like sell your soul to the devil kind of way, because
I get what you're saying.
Don't really have much.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, see me, yeah. Yeah, sorry, go on.
So, like, when you were saying that the smaller clubs are going to die if they don't accept that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but if they accept it, they take the money, but all of a sudden they lose a lot of the power that they have by being like, if we look at the smaller clubs in the Prem, for example, right? They're sacrificing their voting rights. They just suddenly become a lot less powerful. That's what I meant.
Yeah, because I look at it this way, yeah. Take for example, yeah. Let's say for example, James was good. Yeah, he's not good, but let's say he was good. Let's say he was good, and you hit this situation where it's like, all right, cool. You know what? I want James. They go, yeah, 50 M's. You go, yeah, but I swear we just saved you. Yeah, it's like you better reduce that down to 10. Yeah, do you know what I mean? They might
Yeah.
they lose that power. Do you get what I'm saying? They lose that power of essentially you could possibly lose competition as well. Do you know what I mean for players and stuff like that? They could even, and this even opens up doors for backhanders and whatnot, man. Do you get what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
conversation will definitely happen. Huh?
Then when does it stop? When does the Big Six or Big Nine or whatever? When does their power stop?
It doesn't, man.
Then they can just continue to change things, whatever it might be, transfers, whatever, like bringing new things into the game. Suddenly they have way more power than everyone else, and they just control everything.
So this is going back to the point that I said in terms of this is why I don't like there being 9 name teams.
Mm.
So I have no issue with teams that have been in the Premier League and made it the product it is today having more power. Because with all due respect, we're not selling £1 billion TV deals across the world for people to watch West Brom. Do you know what I'm saying? Like West Brom versus Burnley is not getting people jumping out of bed in China in the middle of the night to watch a match. It's not getting people on the west coast of America to get up really super early. Like they're tuning into Liverpool, they're tuning into Chelsea, they're tuning into Manchester United. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there should not be a line. And yes, the teams need to be reined in and they shouldn't be all powerful because we don't want that. That will then go the other way. But I think in terms of like, I mean, even someone like Leicester are making the league more competitive. Wolves are making the league more competitive. They're up there. They're playing football and they're likely to be here for quite a few years. They're helping improve the product, make it better.
Do you think the big six are scared? Do you know why I'm saying that, right? So just on what you're saying, like Leicester, Wolves, Everton now, these so-called smaller clubs that we always go, we should be whacking them like 4-0 going into I think their board have clocked onto something which is improving their squads. Do you get what I'm saying? They've clocked onto whatever the big six or whatever it is doing, and all of a sudden now their club looks structured. It's looking even more structured than the big six in it. Do you get what I'm saying? It's looking structured than that. And then let's say, for example, Joel Glazer and what's his name from Liverpool have turned around and gone, bruv, we can't let this happen. Listen, this cannot happen. We got to shut this shit down one time. Do you get what I'm saying? Because they're looking better. Huh? Yeah, yeah, 100%. Do you think? I think that's what they look. That I don't know why that thought just came to my head. I'm looking at it like these men are scared in it. They're trying to take somewhat power back because a couple of years ago, not I say a couple of years, yeah, a couple of years, no, more than a couple of years ago. The big teams again, like Man United or when Abramovich came and he had the money and he's throwing it all about and stuff. These were the big teams that everything was there for them. Do you get what I'm saying? Whilst everybody else was struggling. Now nobody's really struggling. If you look at Leicester have got a decent board. They've got peas. They've got money. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's looking like Everton are doing exactly the same thing now this year. All of a sudden things are changing. Do you get what I'm saying? So it could be there could be a possibility these men are scared and they're like, listen, let's shut this shit down one time. Bring out this.
Can I be on like my view on it? And it was interesting. I was actually watching a TV show before we came on, The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is available on Netflix now, the follow up to the smash hit Haunting of Hill House. We're not sponsored by Netflix, but Netflix, if you want to, this all week. What are you talking about?
We have to start shouting this shit out, bro.
Also, by the way, just so you know, I'm drinking G Fuel. G Fuel, if you get sponsored. Put that out. We're here for you. We're selling out quicker than the Premier League. No, so we're actually talking literally the scene before I turned off to jump on this. So we're talking about change and how you don't realize change is happening until it's actually happening. I think it's interesting the American owners have seen it first because I think that football is now officially become a product. We like to think of it as this competition, this sport, this all of this. The Premier League is not that. There is a competitive element, but that's just like the flavouring on Callum's crisps that he's eating there. At the end of the day, they're crisps. Or crisps are they?
If you fancy.
There we are.
Yeah, it's blending in.
Chips, if you want to sponsor us, get on down. This is the thing, like football is a product. The American coaches, I think, might have had, so the American owners might have had that differentiation when they've come across, they've had that space to see that. I mean, if any one of us bought a football club and we were the owner, we would be there like, yeah, I'm a proper football fan. Yeah, I love football. Yeah, grassroots, fucking pie at half time. Yeah, all of that bollocks. That's not what
How
we've
many
got.
fans have you seen do that?
I don't know.
Oh
But like,
shit!
do you know what I mean? Football has moved on from that. That is a football of
Yeah, yeah,
yesteryear,
yeah, yeah.
and it's started happening in 1992. Things are happening. Things are changing. It is becoming more of a product that is sold to sponsors more than fans anymore. I mean, we spoke about it with Man United. I think football as a product now, we are part of the package. We're no longer being sold football. We're being sold as part of football when it's, gets sold across the world. And I think the American owners might just have clocked onto that because they've come in from abroad. They've got that distance to see it.
Mm.
And I find it quite interesting because it is a different mindset. We've got foreign owners that have bought in. But like Abramovich is a great example. Abramovich came in, he wanted to win. Like he's got that personality where he's like, I want to win as much as I can because I want to be the best. Whereas I think the American owners are like, I want to make my brand the best. And they understand that football is a brand, Liverpool is a brand, Man United is a brand. It hurts. I don't want to accept it. But Liverpool Football Club is now more of a brand than it is a football club.
Yeah, but look at how they run their American football teams and stuff like that. Do you get what I'm saying? That's even just America in general is a brand. Do you know what I mean? It's everywhere. If you look at their car commercials, like our car commercials are just plain and simple. You just get the average Joe and he's
Yeah.
just sitting in a car. Whereas in America, yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, whereas in America, they've got like American football stars, NBA stars in their adverts, selling the car. And then when you see at the end of their adverts, you see the little logo of the American football team and little things like that and whatnot. Do you get what I'm saying? So I can understand why it's coming from them. Do you know what I mean? Than anybody else because they're here to make money and that's the end of that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh,
And that's their whole ethos.
Ben, when you mentioned clubs like Leicester and those middle tier that seem to be breaking through, could you not argue that teams like Leicester, for example, benefited from stability in the Premier League through things like the equal TV rights and stuff like that? Coming into the Premier League, getting that massive increase in income purely because they are part of the Premier League, no matter where they finished. That allowed them to then go and invest in their club, and also attracted the Thai owner. I can't remember his name exactly. The guy that passed away, sadly. He would have invested in Leicester because he saw that as long as they could get to the Premier League, they might be able to then kind of boost off of that. Do you not think that those kind of instances would be affected?
So I do. I think again we're looking at a rosy image of football. I think if you look at the Championship, a lot of them have big money owners now.
Yeah.
So Wolves are a good example. Like I love Wolves and I think they've done very well, but to pretend they don't have rich owners who have put a lot of money into the club is naive. And a lot of if you can Wikipedia the Championship, go through all of the clubs and have a look at the owners, and a lot of them are foreign businessmen that have come in with big money who are buying into the hope of being that next Wolves. I think part of the issue comes, and it's interesting you raise that because two of the proposals which would have funded the money going to the EFL were to limit the number of clubs in the Premier League to 80 as opposed to 20.
Yeah.
And also get rid of parachute payments. And I see your question, and I do get that, and maybe Leicester wouldn't have been able to survive without a lot of money pumping in, without being able to get that money from the Premier League. But at the same time, I mean, you've now had Norwich have gone down. I love Norwich, and they did I think they did a great job getting up and staying true to themselves. They now have 3 years of parachute payments, which is tens of millions of pounds a year that the rest of the Championship isn't getting because they managed to get to the Premier League for one season and then royally get beaten by everybody. So I think the league is already distorted in the Championship point. And I think that clubs are betting their futures on getting to the Premier League. And we've seen examples where they fall flat and then people disappear. Is it Macclesfield that went broke after they had a new owners came in, bought them, or was that Wickham?
There's Berry as well. Was it Berry?
There was somebody who got bought out, and then they got sold, and then like a week later they went into administration.
Was it Coventry? I don't know, Coventry. Well, with their stadium.
Coventry have had issues. Yeah, their stadium was sold, and I think this is the thing. It's like you have clubs. They roll the dice. They've seen Abramovich come in. They've seen him throw some money at the club, and they've seen the club do well. They've ignored the fact that Abramovich cherry-picked that team. It was between Chelsea and Tottenham. But he wanted a London club. He wanted it with this. He wanted it with that. Had a list of things. Those clubs are now less available because they've been snapped up. And I think you're seeing more people buy a club, throw some money in as a loan to the club now because financial fair play means you can't just give the money to the club. And then if they're not seeing results in 2 years, they're just going to fuck off and be like, "Where's my 140 million pounds?" And I
think also as well it's the ambition of the board that comes in it, because like you keep mentioning Abramovich wanted to win. That's what is.
Yeah.
You can see it. He's passion, innit? He's a passion merchant, innit? Do you know what I mean? He's a very passionate guy. So it's all about the ambition. Whereas I can only speak for Man United. These guys, they might want to win, but that's not as important as having it as a brand. Do you get what I'm saying? Even like 100%. With the Thai owners at Leicester and stuff like that, they want to win. Like even I think the fact that they got their first Prem and stuff like that, that changed their whole mentality. They're like, bro, we want to win. That's why they got rid of what's his name? Who was it that won them the league? Ranieri. That's why they got rid of him, because they were like, we're not interested in sentimental stuff. We need winner. We need to win another one. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's all about the ambition of the board, isn't it? Basically, and for this project to come out, it just shows what the ambition of Liverpool and Man United are, isn't it? Do you get what I'm saying? And any other club that wants to be involved in it.
That's the thing as well. When we say, how we started off the chat of saying like Man United and Liverpool. Now, do we then have to consider like that the clubs aren't what we think they are anymore, and we have to actually talk about, like for example, FSG, Fenway Sports Group. In the case of Liverpool, we need to stop saying Liverpool and we need to start saying FSG. Like for, like no, I'm not saying in every case, but in this case, in cases like this, like purely financial cases that are about the big money, like what's Arsenal's one, FSE, something like that. Stan Kroenke.
KSE.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that guy. Everyone, like, it's been widely reported about how he has used Arsenal as,
My man went to go buy a farm or some shit or some ranch or something like that.
Size of Wales or something.
Yes. Man just yanked the money out, bro.
Like, as soon as we start talking about, capitalism and these American owners and things, they have wider agendas as well. So it'd be interesting if, I don't know, let's use Fenway Sports Group. If something started to go wrong at Liverpool, would they then start pulling things from it's Red Sox as they own in America as one part of their group, isn't it? Would they then start pulling things from Red Sox and pushing those resources towards Liverpool? So I think it's
I don't think they do that though.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think they do that, man, because I think the money I don't know, I may be wrong, somebody might fact check me or whatnot, but the money that football generates is ridiculous, isn't it? It will make more sense to take the money out from here and use to do whatever they want to ever do. Because America, when it comes to their clubs and teams and all this shit and whatnot, it's very fickle, innit? It's just very fickle. 1 minute they're like the best team in the whole of the country. The next minute they're the worst. You know what I mean? Like they're horrible. You know what I mean? And no one's coming to the games and people are switching and it's all pure madness, isn't it? Do you get what I'm saying? Whereas here, it's a bit more sustainable, isn't it? The fans are passion merchants as well, I'll say. You know what I mean? As much as I say, I'm done with United, I'll go watch the game next week. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, really angrily.
Yeah,
exactly.
The worst is when you're angry with your club and you watch them play and they're doing well.
Oh.
And you're like, I fucking hate you. Can you lose?
Yeah.
I need you to play into my...
Listen, I need to keep that energy myself, boy.
Just a quick thing on the Liverpool thing. I don't know if you guys have heard, FSG are actually trying to launch a separate brand called FSG, which would be a sporting conglomerate similar to how Red Bull own several franchises.
No way.
And they're looking to buy multiple clubs and have them as kind of feeders into Liverpool.
No.
So it's funny when you're like, someone might fact checked me about FSG. They're already building an empire. It's on the way. But no, I mean, just to go back to the two proposals that we were talking about would fund it. I mean, in terms of cutting the Premier League to 18 teams, would you guys be in favour of that, or would you be against it?
What is the point of that? I don't understand. What do they gain from doing that?
Too many games, Stage.
Oh, they're saying there's too many games.
Yeah, because they're scrapping the League Cup.
Oh yeah, they said
League Cup's done, Community Shield's done, and it's going on to 18 teams. I think I could be wrong, but I think it's because there's too many games.
Yeah.
But the Champions League in 2024 is being expanded, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, what they're doing is sacking off the things that don't make money and building the things that do.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If they do that, Arsenal's in trouble. But oh no, they're gonna keep FA Cup, innit? It's the League Cup. They keep an FA Cup and get rid of it. Arsenal's safe then. What's it called? Carabao. I mean, Carabao's but you know what? It makes sense though, because no one really watches Carabao like that, man. I think I don't necessarily start watching Carabao until we're like, I don't. Even then, man. Sometimes I wait until the final before I even watch it. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if it's Man United playing, I might wait till semi-finals or something like that. Then I watch it. But other than that, I'm not interested.
Like, for example, last year for us, right? Billy Gilmore made his debut in League Cup, and from there he has elevated his career. Like, there are so many good things about it. I personally watch it. I personally like it. I'm not saying I watch every game, but I do. I would miss it if it went. Community Shield, I can kind of do without.
We don't need Community Shield.
Yeah.
I think Carabao Cup is good for the smaller teams, I think, because it gives them a chance to play against. I mean, you could do it in FA Cup as well, but it's not the same. But it gives them a chance to beat the big clubs. Do you know what I mean? What do they call it? Like giant destroyers. Do you get what I'm saying? It gives them a chance. Yeah, giant killers. That's it. It gives them. I said giant destroyers. You know. Yeah, giant killers. It gives them a chance.
Aston Villa, giant destroyers.
It gives them a chance.
Don't joke, Cal. Don't joke.
It gives them a chance to enter those competitions, knowing that they can do that. But I personally won't miss it. I don't watch Carabao Cup like that. Yeah, I'm saying even
I heard one proposal for it. I don't know what you guys think about it. Is basically if a team qualifies for Europe, they don't get into the League Cup.
Oh, okay.
So everybody but those teams.
No, that's fair. I think that's right, because that's when it gets to too many games. That I can understand in it, because nobody. I tell you now, the Prem teams, other than the lower half of the table, and by lower half, I'm talking about the teams that we wouldn't consider as a big team. They don't care about Carabao Cup. They don't give a shit about it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything to them. Even when Man City won it, I heard they didn't give a shit. They weren't interested in that rubbish. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I do get it. If you make it into Champions League, there's no point wasting your time on that. You can focus on the bigger stuff, innit? I agree with that, actually. I think that's
because this is the thing. Then it's going to give clubs. I think it sounds bad, but if you take away those top teams from it, you then got clubs like West Ham are going to look at it and be like, we can win a cup. We can be at Wembley, we can win a cup. Everton are going to go, well, we can go and we can win a cup. Like all of those teams, Sheffield United. So all of a sudden, you're going to have these teams going full tilt for a cup and then making it more competitive. Because if before probably quarterfinals, probably even semi-finals, like I don't care if Liverpool are in it. Like we've gone out this year to Arsenal. My disappointment when we went out to Arsenal was I was like, damn, that cuts down on game time for people like Neco Williams and Curtis Jones. That was it wasn't like, oh, we're out of a cup. Oh, we can't win a trophy. Oh, we can't. Not even money. It was like, oh man, there's some game time for our youths that's out the window. Like that is the level, and I mean that it's a bad thing. I'm not saying I should feel that way, because 5 years ago I would have loved to win the Carling Cup. Or Carabao Cup or Milk Cup or whatever the fuck you're gonna call it.
Yeah, they need to stick to one name.
Stick with something. Yeah. Even if it's like the Carabao League Cup, right? Cool. We know what it is. But I mean, I think from my point of view, it's one of those things like for some clubs, it is an amazing trophy to win because it's a trophy and it is a big trophy, but it's not a big trophy when you're in the mix for other things. And I think they need to realign that cup in a way that makes it more valuable if they want to keep it.
So
But you know what? Didn't they say? Oh, sorry. Go on, Kevin.
Sorry, Deja. I was just going to say, you know, that you mentioned if they get into Europe, they don't go to the League Cup. And if we're getting rid of the Community Shield, are we basically saying that every club will be limited to like 3 trophy attempts per year? So you've got the League, the FA Cup, so League and FA Cup, everyone's in. And then you're either in Europe or the League Cup. Is that effectively what it is?
Pretty much. I mean, a couple of lucky clubs might get into the Emirates Cup. If they go win that. But I think other than that, other than the big trophy,
Shit.
I think, to be honest, it would just streamline it. And it sounds horrendous. And I realise that, you know, there is tradition, and I don't want to throw all of the tradition out the window. But at the same time, we're expecting players to play faster and harder continuously. It's not like back in the day. Like, if you look at the number of sprints per game, if you look at the number of tackles, but like everything is going up. And if we want football to remain at that level, we need to accept that there needs to be a release valve for these guys. Otherwise, you're going to get results like 7-2 against Aston Villa versus Liverpool, which in the moment is great and it's fun and it's fantastic. But what happens if that keeps on going and the league is just a fuckery? Like you said with American, like if just teams disappear, a la Leeds, because, you know, they've had a weird year. So I think it's something worth considering.
Wasn't there a call for? I don't know if this is part of the project. I might be jumping the gun here, but somebody I read somewhere that they were looking to include like getting teams to have a B team, like to have obviously have the first team, and then you have, you know, like how I think Barcelona have a B team and Real Madrid have a B team and stuff like that. And then, you know, to cover your point, Callum, if you had that, if clubs had that, then those are the. I know it sounds really bad and it might sound a bit disrespectful, but your B team would be entering the League Cups, and then you get to see, you know, how your youth is progressing and all that stuff and whatnot. It sounds disrespectful, but that's the only way that you're going to accommodate for those type of players, isn't it? Do you get what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, even if you don't want, even if they decide, oh, you know what, you know, if you get into Champions League, you don't play in Carabao Cup or whatever, you still got FA Cup. You can chuck your guys in there, play against Arsenal, see what they're saying, innit? You get what I'm saying?
on that point, mate, you know what we were talking about before about kind of like my whole thing of selling your soul to the devil. It's like you're losing all power. What if, and we also know, to touch on the point of reducing the number of teams, that's going to go cascade down the leagues. So I think the Championship, League One and League Two are also going to drop 2 teams each, I think, as well as the Premier League. So there's going to be a reduction in the number of teams, right? Then combine that with what we were saying before about being powerless, or the Premier League having a lot more control over the lower leagues. What if the Premier League suddenly turn around and say, we want our B teams to play in the EFL? And the EFL then go, nah. And the Premier like, well, hold on a second, we just gave you 250 million quid. Like, you're nothing without us. Put their B teams in the EFL in an already reduced numbers EFL. Then suddenly a whole load of teams drop out of the Football League and go to play on, I don't know, God knows where.
This is what I'm saying. This is why it's all going to be a mess.
I don't know whether it will work like that. I think I can see what you're saying, but I can see also the benefit for. So you have a direct benefit to the EFL if the Premier League give them that 250 million and give them the money going forward. The benefit to the Premier League clubs is by shortening. So you're not doing the parachute payments, and you've shortened the league. So that's where the money's coming from. So the big clubs aren't losing any money. That's coming from parachute payments. That's coming from the 2 clubs dropping out of the league. What you're also doing is you're strengthening that Premier League brand by making the teams better, by cutting 2 teams out. But you're also strengthening the brand of each individual club. Because all of a sudden, you've got, this is going to sound so harsh, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm just looking at this from like the idea of no, it's going to sound bad, but if you're looking from a commercial corporate aspect, if Liverpool don't have to play the bottom 2 clubs, it is easier to sell every Liverpool game because you're not selling those boring games. Does that make sense? If Chelsea aren't playing those bottom two clubs, there's more games. And this is the way that everything's going. Like, everything is hype, 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 hype. You never just have like a normal game of football. And it's about, that is where the benefit is going to come to the bigger clubs. It's because people will tune in more, because you're never going to have a 3-week span where Man United are going against week teams. You're going to have stronger clubs all of the time, which is going to make the brand better, which is going to make more people buy the brand, more people buy the merchandise, all of that. So I think that is where it's quite difficult, because you can see the money that the Premier League are giving to the EFL, and you look at that and go, okay, right, I can see exactly what the EFL is getting out of it.
So do you think it's hush money then? So it's like, stay there, don't come into this league.
I think it's more of a case of so the EFL has issues, and I think a lot of those issues are distortion based from the Championship, where you have teams coming down with parachute payments, tons of money, and it's a really weird league where everybody's just trying to get out of it. The Championship, it can be a great thing to watch, but it can be soul destroying as a fan. So like my second team is Watford. Like, there's just a point in the season where you're just like, Watford aren't getting up, the season's done. Not going up, they're not going down. Fuck it, the rest of the league is pointless. Like, there's nothing. Whereas if you have a couple of stronger teams in there, if you have less distortion in the market, where you've got a couple of clubs who have a ton of money, everything becomes more competitive. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, right, if my club can get another 2 spaces, that's a bit more prize money. That means we're a bit stronger for next year, a bit stronger. At the moment, you just got money kind of like coming in, clubs going up and down. Like, it's a very volatile. And I think like the Premier League for maybe the top 15 teams is very secure. And I think that has a product that you can then sell. And as a consumer, you can get your head round. I think it'd be better for the Championship if they have a more level playing field financially. And for all the other leagues as well, there's not that massive difference between League 2, League 1, Championship, because everybody's getting a bit of that Prem money.
So the only thing I can say, the only thing I can say that I wouldn't totally agree with what you're saying is where you were saying about the type of matches and competition and stuff like that. Yeah. I think the way that is going back to I think it should be our new motto, a new brand. Anyone can get it. It's changing.
Including sponsors. I mean? If you want to sponsor us, anyone can.
That's good. I like that. But I think we're getting to a point where it doesn't matter who you are, man. Like, for example, like, look how far it hasn't taken that long for United to fall down. Do you know what I mean? To get to the point where they are. Chelsea are drawing stupid games. Do you know what I mean? They shouldn't be really drawing, and losing games they shouldn't be losing. You guys got battered 7-2 or whatever it was the other day. I'm not saying that's gonna happen all season, but it just shows you that there are teams that are sitting there going, bro, we can't be getting spanked every week. We can't have this. Do you know what I mean? We need to beat these teams, and it's happening. Do you know? Like, even when we're talking about Big Six now, this season, I'm looking at it, bruv, it's not Big Six. It's like, you can say like big half of the fucking table. You know what I mean? Do you get what I'm saying? So it's
Big Two.
Oh yeah, but then now you're separating that category again. Do you get what I'm saying? Now you have the top 2, City and Liverpool, and then you have the Big Six, which is the normal standard ones. Then you have the other 4 teams who are trying to get into that Big Six as well. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think next, if it carries on the way it's going, like for the next 2-3 seasons, I don't think that's going to matter too much. And this is why I went back to the fact that I think it's a case of these owners of these Big Six clubs and that. Or even United, especially United, I think it's a fear factor, especially with United. Joe Glazer's probably sitting there thinking, bro, we've not been doing stuff right for the last 7 years. These men are on a different level. We need to stop this shit right now. And this was probably the best way to do it. Same with, what's it called? The Liverpool owners could be thinking the exact same thing. I don't know about Chelsea. Like I said, Abramovich is a different kind of breed of man, innit? Do you know what I mean? But again, how much contact does he have with the guys that are actually controlling the club? Do you get what I'm saying? So it's that kind of thing that we have to kind of look at. I think in the next 3 seasons, we won't be having this conversation because of the type of competition people want.
I think, Ben, on your point of reducing the numbers, are we simply seeing a case of shrinkflation? And for people who don't know what that concept is, it's
including Ben and Deji.
When you go supermarket,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden those McVitie's packets are suddenly looking a little bit shorter, but you're paying the same price.
Do you remember when Curly Whirlies were the size of a fucking ladder?
Yeah. Listen,
Do
you
you
know
remember
what?
when a Snickers bar you could like knock a man out with? You could just fucking.
Listen, Walkers, I've got beef with them because why do I get 60% air and 40% potato? Why?
40? If you're
Just as a fact check, there, it's not actually air; it's actually nitrogen, and it's to keep the crisps crispier. I don't know why there's so much of it though.
But seriously though, it's valid though, isn't it? If you're paying the same price, suddenly there are 2 teams less worth of games, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'll be honest, and this is more of my personal view. So earlier I gave more of like my understanding of the corporate side, and kind of touching on your point, Deji, about the big teams playing the smaller teams. I think from my point of view, is me as a consumer of football, and until you give me a pass that only lets me watch Liverpool fans, I am a consumer of the Premier League and not Liverpool, because I pay my money. And when Sky aren't doing the stupid fucking box office things, I have access to a variety of games. Now we'll talk about that later. But when Project Restart happened, admittedly I was off on furlough, so I had more time. But I watched every fucking game that happened. Like genuinely, me and Callum sat there messaging like Burnley versus Brighton, like, oh bro, have you that this guy? Tarek Lamptey, oh yeah, O'Neill, yeah. And this is the thing, I really enjoyed it. But now we're back to normal life. And we're at a point where my time is at a premium for me. So I spend money on the product, but I have to spend time to enjoy that product. And I hate to say it, there are games which I'm not enjoying, and so I'm less engaged in the Premier League. I'm getting pushed more towards just being a Liverpool fan rather than a football fan. And from my point of view, if we have a tighter league, we'll have more games that I'm interested in, and then I will watch more football as a whole and spread it across, because I really enjoyed Project Restart, watching all of the games, watching all these people come up. There are people that I've heard, read articles about, oh, this guy's going to be amazing, I've never got around to watching, and that was great to be able to do that. But now, unless I've just watched a game, it's like that sandwich effect. Unless you have like Chelsea versus someone and then Liverpool versus someone and then put Burnley versus Brighton in the middle, I'm not going to tune in for that. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It just doesn't get me going. Whereas if the league is tighter, if I can keep more of an understanding of all the clubs, all of the teams, all of what's going on, when you turn on a match and you're like, I don't even know where in the table these guys are. Like that might be bad, and that might just be me involved in my personal club thing. But you're there like, oh shit, like I get surprised by certain clubs. Oh, they're in the Prem. Like what the fuck? Where did they come from? And I think just having a tighter league, I think the world is getting faster as a whole. I think we're getting access to more information, and I think people have a lot more stuff to do and to spend their time on. And I think for football to remain as relevant and the Premier League as a brand to remain as relevant, maybe making it a little bit smaller would make it an easier product to digest for people.
That's interesting, man.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the perfect answer. I'm just saying that's
as I said, man. I think in the next if the things are going the way that it's going, and these smaller clubs are, getting more money in that, and investing it correctly, I think we won't be having this conversation, man. I think because like I said, I think like going on your point, for some reason I've started watching Everton more often. I don't know why. I just enjoy their football. Do you get what I'm saying? So,
It's James. You're attracted.
Yeah, bro. That's what it is. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
The flower.
Sweet. But yeah. But so when I see Everton playing certain teams, I'm like, oh shit, you know what? Let me try and catch this game. I need to jump on Leeds because D keeps on going on about Leeds, so I need to jump on them and see what they're saying as well. But when you got clubs like that are exciting.
On this Leeds stuff. For real, like I'm a fan of Leeds. I'm a fan of what they're doing, but like I think he's looking at that with big rosy romantic glasses. Like, they're just playing football, bro. Calm down. We probably got to a good point to cut that off, just I think in terms of the topic, we just have a general level of disagreement, mild disagreement, and I think I think that's really the takeaway from the whole thing. I think it's good that the clubs are. I don't know what you guys are, but it's good that it's coming from the clubs. That clubs are looking at how we can change the game to make it better for the people involved, and particularly the whole football pyramid. But I think, I mean, you can't cover everything in an hour. But even so, with the level of disagreement, I think it's fair to say that it's a conversation that needs having, and it needs having an extended period to make sure we're bringing out the correct product and the correct thing that we want to see.
You think eventually it's going to go through?
I think so. Going back to I said earlier, like society's going a certain way. I think the whiplash reaction is a yes or no. Should this go through? Yes or no? I don't think it should go through. I don't think it shouldn't go through. I think that there is an interesting menu of topics to discuss, and I think that's where the negotiations need to take place. We're too whiplash and ready to be like, no, that's just a dumb idea. It's just big clubs trying to solidify their position. Yeah, everyone's trying to solidify their position. So now we need to talk about how we can make sure that everybody is getting a better deal from it.
Yeah, I think it will go through in some form. Basically, change will happen. I think.
And to be honest, I think it's important that it happens all. I think we've seen the negatives of having a trickle of changes over time. And I think it would be quite good to have a big reset where they do a lot of stuff in one go, rather than just gradual decisions being made without really a plan of where it's going to end up.
Premier League 2.
The Liverpool League. Or...
the 7-2 League.
Sponsored by G Fuel.
Sponsored by 7-Up.
Okay, guys.
That's dumb.
I'm happy to leave it there unless you guys got anything to add.
No.
Good. Enjoyed the chat, guys. Nice one.
Yeah, great chat. Thanks for coming on.
Cool.
And I'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah, subscribe, man, brother. You didn't tell the man to subscribe and that, man.
I was about to go to that.
If there's anything
that you disagreed with, probably stuff that I've said, then please comment down below and I will tell you why you're wrong. If you want to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell so you can get more videos from us. If you like what we're saying, then like it. If you don't like it and you think I'm wrong, then like it anyway, because then it keeps in your menus and you can come back and in the future tell me why I was wrong in the past. So basically, if you're watching this, subscribe, bell, like, comment, favorite. Can you favorite us?
Yeah.
Guys, from us, thank you very much. Have a great evening, day, week, whatever you're having. Peace.
Peace.